This is a reading from a chapter in my book Modern Climber, which I'm currently illustrating as a short comic. The chapter recounts a freezing day in February when we climbed the Bardsey Ripple on the Llyn Peninsula, and explores how ego dissolution under extreme conditions can open consciousness to the deeper patterns and possibilities latent in nature. It opens with a poem about ancient geological time called Precambrian by the poet and once vicar of Aberdaron, R.S. Thomas. Precambrian by R.S. Thomas. Here I think of the centuries, 6 million of them, they say. Yesterday a fine rain fell. Today the warmth has brought out the crowds. After Christ, what? The molecules are without redemption. Ynys Enlli, known in English as Bardsey Island, rests off the southwesternmost tip of the Llyn Peninsula in North Wales. A place of pilgrimage steeped in myth and magic, the island's historical lineage interweaves ancient Celtic and Christian spiritual traditions with Arthurian legends. Often shrouded in mist, the island's tip appears to float above the sea, reminiscent of the Fata Morgana visual illusion. Protected by the treacherous currents of the Bardsey Sound, this portal to the Celtic otherworld is home to 20,000 dead and lost pilgrims, beatified souls at rest in the liminal space between this world and the next. Overlooking the island, the cliff of Trún Maen Melyn is formed by a chaotic assemblage of sheared granite, quartzite, limestone, sandstone, mudstone, jasper and basalt. A prominent quartzite vein bisects the cliff face, running diagonally for 37 meters from bottom right to top left, offering one of the most aesthetically rewarding climbing experiences in the area, known as the Bardsey Ripple. The route to the cliff and onwards to Ynys Enlli is marked by a finger-like menhir pointing seaward. The most compelling hypothesis is that it was erected by late Bronze Age tribal peoples who sought to channel the archaic magical forces of nature. At sea level, both the cliff and its quartzite vein come into view. The fractured strata form seemingly random patterns shaped by dynamic forces spanning millions of years of deep geological time. Deposited through subduction, tectonic collisions, and underwater landslides, the rock exhibits complex stratifications, disorderly structures in which the natural patterns emerge at both microscopic and macroscopic scales. Among the chaos, one observes ripples, lichen-like fractals, and angular forms divided by branch-like channels that drain from the headland above. As David Wade describes in Lee, Dynamic Patterns in Nature, these formations are a manifestation of Gestalt, the inherent archetypal patterns of action found throughout the natural world. It is calligraphy written in deep time, its forms shaped by the interplay of logos and will. Li is the inherent pattern principle, a self-generating structure driven by the vital energy, qi. It is asymmetrical yet ordered, a reflection of the logos, the logic that governs the universe in its relentless cycles of flux and repetition. The geological forms unfold from an implicate order, primal and pre-rational, comprehensible only through the vastness of deep time, where patterns arise under the principles of logos and the initiating impulse of nature's will. It was approaching dusk on a cold February day when we arrived to complete our pilgrimage. Waves frothed up from beneath the leaning blocks, propping up the face of Trún Main Melin. The sun dipped in the west, silhouetting Unis Enlli, which seemed to hover a mile away across cold, choppy seas. Brisk easterly winds drove the temperature below freezing, and smoke from the controlled burning of gorse drifted across the landscape under milky winter skies. Nietzschean hardship training and exposure to the sublime will of nature were etched in a wry smile, even as my brain froze, bricked like an old computer, rendering the familiar patterns of the climb barely discernible amid numbness, pain, and anxiety. Like the mind of a schizophrenic, split in phenomenological dualism, the dynamic process had become arrested in a frozen moment in time. If pattern recognition is the foundation of Western science, none was to be found in the inert forms of the refrigerated crag. The random network of fragmented blocks, giant cornflakes, and fractured brake lines embodied a duality that resonated with the savage mind, viewed from an Apollonian perspective. Here on the Llyn, pre-structural climbing is available for the determined. Like Wade's description of shale patterns fixed in clay, imposing no order at all. The formations, barely held together, recalled to mind Dave Thomas climbing Breakaway for the film Hard Excess. Quote, "Nothing is really as solid as it appears, ever. You have to stay with it while it's all falling apart. Let it gently happen. You're nowhere if you start trying to control it." In The Matter with Things, Ian McGilchrist writes of the importance of asymmetry, chaos, and apparent randomness. The generative potential found in the tension between order and disorder, the creative force behind cosmological phenomena. Quote, "When chaos and order are maximally present to one another, it is the most fruitful condition of an open system, including the creative potential of the human brain." Traditional climbing in such a place under such conditions allows the modern climber to bridge the gap between polarities, mental and physical, order and chaos, Dionysian and Apollonian, archaic savage mind, and Faustian Western mind. So cold and full of fear you forget why you're there or what you're doing. Hands struggle to place and clip gear, mind gone elsewhere, only to return later with the blood in your extremities. A spell has been cast, its latent effects, opening consciousness to ancient structures, invisible fields of energy present in the ether for those who persist in looking without desiring.